my subscribers. A very quick video for everybody. I'm just going to read 3 verses to prove something. Now, Jesus is the one who dictated Revelation to John, so please keep that in mind when you hear the following. It's actually Jesus telling us these things. Now, the myth I'm going to dispel today is the myth that the beast kingdom rules for 3.5 years in the end days. So a lot of people, a lot of Christians believe that the final 3.5 years on earth, or of this age, whatever you would call it, that the final 3.5 years would be ruled by the beast. It would be the beast kingdom ruling the planet for 3.5 years. Okay, this is what people, a lot of Christians teach, probably a majority. But I can show here that it's simply not scriptural, it's not true. Okay, and from Jesus's own mouth we will be able to see this. Now, part of that myth, it teach their own, but part of that myth, most people believe that there are 2 Armageddons. They believe that there's an initial Armageddon, and that whatever happens then, there's a 1,000-year period after that in which the bad people are still on earth, Gog Magog, across the 4 corners, according to what they teach. And that after the 1,000 years, Satan's released, gathers up all Gog Magog, all the bad people, and then there's a second Armageddon, which is the final. But that is erroneous. It's completely false. There's only one Armageddon. Okay, so I can actually dispel 2 myths with these 3 verses here. But my main focus is on the beast is not ruling for 3.5 years in the end days. So first, let's look at Revelation 20, verse 2. It says, "And he laid hold on the dragon, the old serpent, who is devil and adversary, and did bind him 1,000 years. And he did cast him to the abyss, and did shut him up and put a seal upon him, that he may not lead astray the nations any more, till the 1,000 years may be finished. And after these it behooveth him to be loosed a little time." Now, if we go over to Revelation 17, verse 8, it says, "The beast that thou didst see, it was and it is not, and it is about to come up out of the abyss and go away to destruction." So clearly we can see that it is Satan who's put into the abyss, and when he's released for what? A little time. Okay? In Revelation 17, it says that it's the beast who is in the abyss. And after all, we know that Satan is the mind and the mouth of the beast, right? He's the one who rules it. But Revelation 17, it says that the beast is in the abyss and will come out of the abyss and go away to destruction. Okay? Identical scenario with what is described about Satan in Revelation 20. Now in Revelation 11, it's talking about the 2 witnesses. The 2 witnesses are actually plaguing the earth, all the nations, not specifically the beast kingdom, as I erroneously first thought. They are just plaguing the world and all the unrighteousness. And it says in verse 7, "And when they may finish their testimony, the beast that is coming up out of the abyss shall make war with them and overcome them and kill them." And in verse 9, we see that at this point, the 2 witnesses, it says their dead bodies their dead bodies 3 days and a half lay in the streets. Okay? And then in verse 11, after the 3.5 days, they resurrect at the great end days resurrection. Okay? Along with everybody else. And that's when, if you're alive, you get translated. So what we see here in verse 11, it says that the beast is coming up out of the abyss, and that he kills the 2 witnesses who had been plaguing the world for 3.5 final years. However, the beast was not on the earth during those final 3.5 years, was it? It came out after the 3.5, at their culmination, to kill the 2 prophets who were plaguing the earth. 3.5 days later is the end of days, the great judgment, the one and only Armageddon. Okay, so let's just read again 11 verse 7, "The beast that is coming up out of the abyss." In Revelation 17, "The beast that thou didst see is about to come up out of the abyss." In Revelation 20 verse 2, "And he bound Satan and cast him into the abyss and did shut him up," and blah blah blah. "And after this it behooveth him to be loosed a little time." Quite clearly, we see the scenario. There is no 2 Armageddons. You know why? There is no 1,000-year gap. You know why? There is no 3.5-year kingdom at the end of days of the beast. You know why? The reason why is because the 2 witnesses, they don't live at 1,000 years off into the future. at a second Armageddon, the two witnesses every Christian understands and believes die at the first, which is the only Armageddon. If the two witnesses are killed by the beast who comes up out of the abyss 3.5 days before the end, then that clearly shows you that there is no 1,000-year gap. There is no second Armageddon, and that the beast wasn't on the earth ruling it for 3.5 final years, was he? He comes out 3.5 days before the end in absolute wrath, kills the two witnesses, and at that moment, that's the final date. What happens when the two witnesses rise? It's the resurrection. What do we know about Jesus? When he comes to the earth with the final trumpet, the dead in God rise, and we're translated. When the two witnesses are resurrecting, the others will be translated because Jesus is here. Okay? So Satan will have 3.5 days, not 3.5 years, 3.5 days to wreak havoc on the earth after killing the two witnesses, and he will immediately go off to battle Jesus. 3.5 days. That's absolutely it. Okay? And in Revelation 9, we hear about the release of the fallen angels and of the destroyer, Apollyon, the one who lords over them. We hear about their release from the abyss. Okay? So anyways, folks, there you go. God bless you all.